Hello everybody. Can anybody hear me and see me? These wonderful guys from Self-Isolation Choir have done a brilliant job in dragging me into the 21st century. But I still, they haven't held my hand getting to this point. But I am hopeful that you can now see me and hear me. You send some messages. Oh, somebody said, "Hi, Nigel. Hello from sunny, windy East Sussex." Yes, here we go. Yes, both fine. Oh, thumbs up all round. Can hear and see you just fine. Marvellous. Oh, well, that's brilliant. I hope everybody's well. We've got a minute or so to go. Gosh, over 30 countries where we're coming from. That is amazing. Isn't this a brilliant thing they've set up? Absolutely love it. Makes me feel human and loved. Well, almost. You know what I mean. So I think we've given you a bit more volume today, so that hopefully it's a case. If it's too loud, then you will turn your volume down rather than us sort of trying to fiddle with it whilst we're going. So look, it is 5 o'clock, everybody, and we are go. Welcome to Self-Isolation Choir, working on Gregorio Allegri's Miserere, this wonderful piece that has kind of seeped into the psyche of many people, really, without realising it. People who don't know anything about classical music, when they hear it, they sort of say, "Oh yeah, I think I know that piece." I think I first heard it actually before I was even a chorister. My parents, showing my age, had some LPs called, I think it was Music for Pleasure or Classics for Pleasure, something like that. Anybody remember those? And they had one in particular that I listened to many, many times, and it had Nessun Dorma on it by some Welsh tenor, I think, and Vidor's Toccata, a recording of that, and the Allegri, which was that famous broadcast that I mentioned yesterday from King's College Chapel. And funny enough, I think I had no idea, of course, that I was going to end up singing or doing that piece when I was that little boy listening to that LP. Of course, the other thing I listened to loads was Elton John, believe it or not, David Essex, and a group called The Sweet, which I think was my favourite, but that might have been just because the lead singer had long blonde hair, and so did I when I was 6. Anyway, anybody remember The Sweet? Right. We are going to do, I gather some people will be coming back for this that have just been on the first soprano session, so I'm sorry, I may end up repeating myself once or twice. I haven't got that many gags. I'm a very boring fellow, I'm afraid. So just bear with. We're going to do a little bit of the warming up that we started on yesterday. So, you've been in the office or done. Jill Roberts says, "I love The Sweet. Do you remember them?" God, I couldn't tell you a single song, but yeah. No, I can't remember any songs, but anyway, I do remember them. So just remember, if you're standing up, feet under your hips, so not close together and not far apart, so it's totally natural. Bend the knees and make sure, and then lock them, and then make them relax. That'll just sort of keep everything around the middle all sort of nice and relaxed. Just roll the shoulders forward, backwards, and some gentle neck rolls. Never. I'm told that hearing the odd crack when you're rolling your neck is not actually such a bad thing, but I think from my rugby playing days, when I heard a crack, anything to do with the neck, it generally meant quite bad news. But you know what I mean. They're little pockets of air, I think, that are popping. So just nice and relaxed, and we're just going to do a little bit of humming to start with. What I want you to do is to smile before you hum and not let this smile go. And we're going to try and make our lips buzz. Don't force anything. It's just I want a metallic sound almost. So you're kind of focusing the sound around here almost. It's a sort of nasal buzz, if you like. But see if you can make your lips buzz. And keep that through these little exercises. We're just going to go. Okay? So you can hear me breathe, or gasp is probably a more accurate term. But when you hear me breathe, and then we're going to go up a semitone. So nice and smiley, and then... Nice and smiley and buzzy. Don't worry about it being beautiful at this point. Good. And now I'd like you to do, basically when we now start opening our mouths onto vowels, what I want is to keep a little bit of that brightness. Rather than can you see what I mean? Everything drops. So we're going to sort of imagine your eyes do that scrunchy thing where, and open your face, do that a couple of times, scrunch up, get everything alive, and this metallic buzz, and then opening onto a nice bright R. Don't open your mouth too wide at this stage. Upper semitone. An awful lot of messages about the sweet. I'm glad to know there's lots of other people as old as me here. Right, so now in this piece you've got various leaps. This is probably more apt for the first sopranos. You've got the leap to the top C, but what we do want is to make sure that in this music we are as smooth as we can be between any leaps. And you have, second sopranos have this cum judica, yeah. And so what I'd like you just to do is exaggerate the slide so that we've got no air escaping. If I had a candle in front of me and there's a flame here, if I aspirate between each note, that flame will flicker. And actually what we want is for the flame not to move at all. Do you see what I mean? Just slide up and down. And that will preserve air in the phrases so that hopefully you won't run out of breath quite as often as I do. The other thing I've said to the first sopranos is in these phrases, sometimes they are very long. Always breathe if you need to. And I would say if you realise you're going to need a breath, then take one sooner rather than later. Because if you squeeze the air, what happens? My shoulders go in and I'm like, oh, and I get tense. You know, that's very bad for keeping everything relaxed. And also it means that you'll have a gaspy air that will be very shallow. It'll kind of be around here. Your larynx will shoot up. You won't get a quality breath and you'll run out of breath faster than you can say Jack Robinson. And so if you have to miss out some notes, fine, doesn't worry. There are so many of us, we'll cover them all. But it's a good technique that you'll need in this music. Okay, so we're now going to sing a little song. This is an exercise to sort of wake us all up and get us sort of lively and hopefully smiling. I have to be careful with my equipment here because I might make things go falling all over the place. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea. Everybody know that song? If you don't, you'll catch on pretty quickly. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. Oh, come back, my Bonnie, to me. Come back, bring back, oh, bring back my Bonnie to me, to me. Bring back, oh, bring back my Bonnie to me. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, I want you to just sing along, smile at the beginning, and do not let that smile drop all the way through. And then we're going to do different things with it. So even there's a little buzzy M there. My. So don't get the buzz. Keep the vowel and that sort of slightly metallic sound. Don't worry about this being beautiful at the moment. Ready? Listen for me to breathe, and then we'll come in together. 1 and... My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. So bring back my Bonnie to me. Bring back, oh, bring back my Bonnie to me, to me. Bring back, oh, bring back my Bonnie to me. Okay, is that all nice and warm and just all short phrases? So we're breathing, we're getting everything going, and now we're going to add a little twist. So this time when you sing it, I would like you to clap every time there is the letter M. So here we go. We're going to start with a clap. Listen for my breath, and then off we go. There's your first note. 1 and 2. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. So bring back my Bonnie to me. Bring back, oh, bring back my Bonnie to me, to me. Bring back, oh, bring back my Bonnie to me. How is everybody doing with that? Everybody getting that right? Yes, probably. So now we're going to do something more. If you have a bad back, probably don't do this. And I'm going to find this a little bit tricky. I'll probably end up knocking something over because my microphone is here right in front of me. Now, every time we sing it and the letter B crops up, we are going to stand up. And the next time it crops up, you sit down. So bring back. So you get the idea. But we're still going to clap every time we have the letter M. Okay, ready? Good luck. And you'll lose me out of the sound a little bit as I stand up and then come back. But you'll get the idea. 1 and 2. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. Oh, bring back my Bonnie to me. Bring back, oh, bring back my Bonnie to me, to me. Bring back, oh, bring back my Bonnie to me. Now, if you're standing up, you got it wrong. And yes, it is harder than you think. The number of times I've tried to do that in a workshop and actually got it wrong myself. Mind you, I have to say it's easier when I'm not looking at lots of people getting it wrong. And then we tried different things, like my Bonnie lies. My Bonnie lies over the sea. So all sorts of handed. Anyway, the whole point of this is that it's kind of waking us up mentally. We're doing lots of different things. We're kind of thinking about the clapping. We're thinking about the physicality of standing up, sitting down. That's getting our bodies going, and the mental agility. And we're listening whilst we're breathing. We're listening to sing in tune, and obviously we are singing the melody. Now, the point of this is that, believe it or not, singing is very good for you, and it is a scientific fact that in many ways singing can benefit your intellectual capacity, and the synapses, that in your brain. There was a study done sometime between 2000 and 2010. I ought to look it up one day. To try and discover what activities get the synapses working at the fastest rate and their most efficient rate. Let's see if anybody can guess what was in that activity. Something that we would all be thinking about this week. Not just singing, one kind of singing. Has anybody got it? Probably somebody who was here earlier. But anyway... oh, my poor old knees. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Anyway, in the top 10 activities was sight singing, sight reading. You think about it, unlike a piano or an instrument, you can't just think about a note going from one note to the next. You've actually got to have it in your mind, know what the interval is. You've got to, first of all, look at the music. Oh, that's a fourth. Then you've actually got to breathe. You've got to get all your mechanics going. In a choir, you are also listening to be in tune with all your fellows and to be together. So you're watching a conductor, you're reading the words, you're reading how long the beats are, you're reading the dynamics, are there crescendos, whatever, and you're trying to hopefully blend with the singers that are around you. So you're doing about 12 different things all at the same time. And it's really a great sort of exercise. If you can do a little bit of sight reading exercise, once a day, even if it's just for 2 minutes, just picking up a little bit of random music and trying to sight read it will give you just a little bit of a boost. My 11-year-old son would definitely disagree with that, but we try to do it as often as possible. He's one of these singers, probably like me as a little boy, who would much rather just sing something that he knows and recognises and doesn't have to think about. But of course he does a lot of different music every day, so he has to sort of keep his sight reading skills up, and so we are told he must do a little bit every day. Oh, the battles we have. We're going to sing a bit of Allegri now. Yes, this is why we're here, isn't it? So we're on the second soprano part. I think we should just sing through a little bit of this. I'll get my computer up and running. Yeah, there's a B flat. Let's just reach over here and get my... Okay. Now remember, at the beginning of phrases, I'm doing the same as you. I'm listening to the track and actually listening for the breath. This is exactly what I would do with tenebrae. When I conduct tenebrae, I do this at the beginning, but I always say to the singers, look, I'm a guide. I want to work with you. So if I hear a collective breath from the singers, I'm working to that. And that's what I want them really to focus in on, using their ears. And when I'm listening to something like this, it's made me realise this is probably how I first, when I bought LPs of the King singers, and I sort of, this is brilliant. And I would just hear tracks again, get to know them, memorise them, and then I'd listen in, turn the volume up and sing along. And I was absolutely listening for the breath so that I could be as together as possible with them. And that's what we're trying to do here. Sometimes you can't hear the breath, but I think you can hear some of them, and when you can, just get in, listen for it. So so nice bright Italian it sounds. Ya da da. That is your note. It's in 4 beats. Yeah. Here we go. Okay, just going to stop you there. Now, it's very interesting hearing these individual singers from Tenebrae who I know so well, and then hearing them having put these tracks down in their own home on their own. One thing I would like you to avoid when it comes to recording this, at the end there in bar 12, is to open up. We go from a closed vowel to an open vowel. So you have to grade that. It's nice and open, but don't just sort of let it suddenly come out too loud. And did you hear in bar 8, the first soprano? I realised we were working on a track which is highlighting the second soprano, but when they came in there, Miserere, I call that squeezing the toothpaste tube, sort of energizing a beat, and that's another thing. I probably, I would give a wry smile to a singer that would do that in a Tenebrae rehearsal in front of me, because they know I'm not a massive fan of that kind of singing. Makes me feel kind of rather seasick, and it's in Renaissance polyphony, I think very important to say that we don't want those surges, because what it does, it breaks up the arc. In this music, every phrase is one long arc. Basically, the difference between this Renaissance music and Baroque music, you have a phrase like that in Baroque music, but it's made up of lots of it's got lots of little groups, 2, 3, 4 notes, whatever, and you can come away from those, but you're still in one arc. But in Renaissance polyphony, we don't want the sound of we don't want it coming and going. So you're singing, once you start your journey in a phrase, you are singing all the way through, and then you only just sort of die down at the end, and you have to be in perfect control of that all the way through. Miserere meus. Everybody okay with the timing here? And second sopranos, you kind of add to this lovely moment at the beginning of bar 3. Da dee dee da are all the notes in that chord, and it's quite a jammy chord, really, for Renaissance music. It's only there for a moment, fleetingly, but I enjoy it so much that if you would, even though it's the weaker syllable of the word may, from the B flat, maybe just crescendo a little bit to the beginning of bar 3. Then we'll get all the parts arriving on that lovely moment, just to enjoy it. We don't want to stay there any longer than we have to, but we can just feed the sound a little bit. Okay, with this misericordia, can you be as smooth as you can be, but without getting slower there? I think in an effort to be smooth, there's probably the temptation to just slow it up, but the tactus in the music, that's the beat, is kind of there, and we don't want to slow things up. The phrases are already long. Remember to crescendo through that B flat, the note at the end of bar 9 into bar 10. You want to feel almost like you're pushing, you're just leaning against a little gate that's going to give way, and you'll be able to go through it at the beginning of the bed, and then you sort of cascade away in those crotchets, in the faster notes there. Okay, let's do that once more, and we will continue this time. So remember, miserere mei Deus secundum maniam. Experiment with it, sort of be quite Italian. Don't, oh yes, I'll do that. Miserere, and then go all sort of polite and English. So here we go. Ya, da, da. That's your B flat, ladies. And I realise we've got some other people here as well, some gents I think are probably coming in to join us as well, just to have a listen. So ladies and gents, sorry. Here we go, everybody. Listen for the breath. A little crescendo. Oh, she takes a breath. Don't take a breath there. Listen to this squeeze here. Hear it? Gently. Do you hear what I mean about the end there where she opens onto the R vowel a bit too bright? Somebody's saying here they can't get the note in bar 9. If you listen to the alto part, Miserere. If you follow the alto part and ignore what happens in the top soprano part in bar 8, the altos are singing your note. So hopefully that will help. You'll get this from the altos. Miserere, 2, 3. Miserere. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Gosh, that would have cost you a fortune about 25 years ago. Right. So that's the way you get your note there. Hopefully that helps. Should we just do that once more so that those people that are having a bit of a problem there. Actually, I say listen for the breath at the beginning. The track comes in pretty smartish, doesn't it? So almost as soon as I press go, we're in. And as I just noticed there, if everybody could not breathe at the end of bar 2, if you're struggling, then fine. But let's try and get as many of us to get through that moment and not breathe there. Otherwise, that juicy note on the G, we've all sort of skipped out of it a little bit. Okay, there's your B flat here, and it's going to start now. Listen for the altos. There's your note. Let's go on. Okay, I'm just going to stop you here. The next note you sing, you think, and you go up a third. 1, 2, 3. That is the note. Those are that's the way I work with intervals with my son at the moment. But we have to quickly. We're given games with number patterns, sort of going 2, 6, minor 6, 7th, all this kind of stuff. So, Dele iniquitatem meam, 1, 2, 3, amplius lava me. Okay, I'll just rewind that bit of chant, and then you can practice that. Here we go. Gosh, that's a long phrase, isn't it? She does well to sustain it. And of course, I think when you're probably one to a part, she would normally cheat a breath, I think. You know what I was saying about taking a breath when you need it and then come back in. So if mark in the score where you think you will need a breath, and then do the same each time, I think. But the important thing is to make sure you've got enough gas in the tank. So that you can just gently support that last note, and it's none of these notes finish really suddenly, do they? They all drift off. It's like you're singing in a beautiful church, and you can see the air, and when the note comes out of your mouth, you can actually see it floating off in the distance, and that's how you should phrase off these notes. So it's not yes. So we have in bar 17, ab iniquitatem. You can hear Hannah, this is Hannah King, this soprano, how she beautifully leans into the halfway point of bar 17, as the rest of the chord, if you look at the notes, they change, and hers doesn't. So she's kind of in a suspended note, and she just leans. Again, it's just like leaning through a little gate it's gonna give way, so you don't have to push too hard. Ab iniquitatem. Okay. And then in bar 20 here, so once you get to that B flat in bar 18, you hold that for 4 beats. It's the last 2 beats of bar 18 and the first two beats of bar 19, and then the rhythm in bar 20 is dum da 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 1 2 3. So you move on 2, and then you get to that A by the time you get to the third beat. If you're in any doubt as to the beats and all the rest of it, do what my son does in the choir stalls, and my daughter. They just tap their fingers very gently. 1 2 3 4. Don't move anything with your body. Just use your fingers and just get used to it. Don't be ashamed of doing that. Lots of professional singers do it as well in sort of complicated music. It's a very useful thing to do. 1 2 3. Just practice that. 3 4. And again, 2 3 4. So hopefully that has sorted that out. We're working at a quick pace here. Right, let's go back. Let's do this. Let's cover this verse once more. Here we go, everybody. Amplius lava me. Oh, sorry. Give you a bit more of a run in. Listen for the breath if you can. That's it. 3 4 1 2 off and 1 2 3. Take a breath where you need one and just float back in. There we go. I mean, she's got good breath control, but you can just hear, can't you, that it becomes a tiny bit unsteady at the end, and that G major chord just wants to be perfectly controlled, and so that it melts into the distance in an acoustic. Okay, we're going to move on. Next one, next full verse. Again. Et peccatum meum contra me est semper. The chant finishes on a G, so all you've got to do is very quickly count up 1, 2, 3. And you're in tibi soli peccavi. That's the rhythm there. Tibi soli peccavi et ma. And then we're into 4. Use your fingers. And then it's chi. Ut justificeris in sermonibus tuis et vincas. And I do tend to tell my tenebrae singers, try not to think of it in ut justificeris in sermonibus tuis. Just sort of let it all become a little bit elasticy, and if it wants to go faster, it does. But there's no sort of big heavy beat through this. Okay, so tibi soli peccavi. Here's the bit of chant. Okay, here we go. Et peccatum meum contra me est semper. Tibi soli peccavi et malo. Here's your alto note. Hold on to that. Okay. Let's go on. Remember your little count up to the B flat? Lean. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, again, she does very well there, doesn't she? She gets all the way through to the end. So look, that you've got this big mouthful of Latin here in bit bar 52 and 53. Incerta et occulta sapientiae tue manifesta. When you've got these triplets written, just let it flow. Sometimes if I was singing it, I would have written a little arrow, just sort of going forward, to the right. Incerta et occulta sapientiae tue manifestasti. And I think that there's quite a temptation there to let this sort of smiley sound go. Incerta et occulta sapientiae, and let the thing come down. But try not to do that. Try to keep it nice and bright all the way through. Incerta et occulta sapientiae tue manifestasti. There's another lean actually for you second sopranos. That D, each time it comes in this solo quartet verse, it's bar number, the end of bar 54 into 55, as that D is tied over that bar there. It's just like leaning against a gate, and then you don't want to hit it too hard, but you lean into it and then float off from it. I think that all seems fairly. Now, have we got some people still worrying about this rhythm in bar, this thing in 48, 49, 50. Ecce enim veritatem D 2, 3. Lexi 3, 4. Isti. Where there is no new text written after a rest, you just sing the same vowel that you finished with. So the word is dilexisti. So you just ixi. Okay. Now let's go on. Auditui meo dabis gaudium. Dabis. This is one I always have a go at my crew for. Dabis gaudium et letizion. Oh yes, excellent. Auditui meo. It's because of the meo. The O is a dark vowel, and it's easy to let things drop, and that has a bad impact on the da. Meo dabis gaudium. I like to hear the diphthongs, just as I do actually in English. When my son comes to choir practices and I'm asking Tenebrae to sing diphthongs, I can see him in the corner of the room shaking his head, going, "No, it's not right, Daddy," because his choir master says, leave the diphthong till the very end of the word. Praise. And if the word is praise, and I always say, 100 feet away in a church, if you don't hear the diphthong, then you're not really giving a listener much of a clue as to what the word is. Praise seems, yeah. Anyway, he tells me I'm wrong, and who's to say he's not right? Shall we do this one then? Bar 62, auditu. Remember, it's the ow. Auditui meo. Here it comes. This bit can be marked down to piano. Okay, jolly good. I've just spotted a question somewhere. Where was it? I don't hear the difference between leaning and squeezing the toothpaste tube. Barbara. It's the leaning is just a more gentle version. The squeezing is when it happens really quite quickly. A real surge at the end of the. So it's a more gentle and a more. It takes longer. There's longer time over it, and it's not such a quick surge up to it and quick drop afterwards. That's the difference. Right. So let's go on now. We're into the solo verse, bar 77. Everybody. Oh gosh, I won't do that. That hurts. Benigne fac domine. And there's a breath here, isn't there? I noticed this yesterday when we played through it. The solo quartet take a breath after the word domine in bar 77. So if everybody would mark that, then just listen out for the breath before they come back in, and then we'll be kind of nice and together, and make sure that the last note of bar 77 isn't too long. It really is just a break in the text rather than a break in the music. Benigne fac domine in bona voluntate tua si. Do you hear that, Barbara? I hope you did. And then bar 84, this word is ut edificentur muri. Okay? And then Jerusalem, and of course, even though you're in the middle of a word here, absolutely fine when you're singing choral music to cheat a breath, in the middle of a word, as long as everybody else is not cheating at the same time, then we don't have a problem. Okay, so here is bar 77 coming up. There's a bit of chant just before. Remember your little count up to find your B flat. Very good. So interesting there on that. Ooh, Val, did you hear that? That when she's starting to run out of breath, ooh, just goes a little bit sharp. So it's another reason why you shouldn't ever squeeze the breath, because you're not in control of the intonation immaculately. Thank you, Barbara. I'm glad you got that. I tell you what, we'll do that again. And if you're not sure of where to come in bar 82 with that little da 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 da, I'm going to give you a nice big beat this time round. Okay, let's go back to Benigne Factomine. Sorry, everybody. Lean gently. 3. Just goes sharp there, doesn't it? Okay. Oh, shush. At the very end there, don't worry about putting a great big S on the end. I always like to because everybody diminuendos on that chord, so it doesn't really make sense to me to then overload the last consonant with lots of energy and everybody doing it together when you've just beautifully shaped a note to disappear. Just let the consonant go very, very gently. Yeah, we dipped down then, ladies. Sorry, I should have told you, to the second soprano part in the solo quartet part, didn't she? When you come to record this, please can you record both that line and the second line down in the score here at bar 97, starting on the G? Tunc imponent super altare tuum. So that's fairly easy, isn't it? It's in 4, no big leaps in there. Breathe where you need to, and it's worth making a note of this in your scores. In bar 97, for some reason, when we recorded the original Tenebrae track, this back in 2005, I don't really know why, but that first note seems to hang around for an age before we sort of then gather a bit of momentum. Tunc imponensu, and then it moves. So it might be just worth putting a little squiggle over the first note, just so that you know you need to make that a little bit slower, and then really listen for how things, another little arrow really, isn't it, in bar 98, how the music the tactus moves forward a little bit, and then we phrase the end there. So look, we've got this moment, this slightly nasty moment from on page, what page is it? Page 9 in the solo quartet, where we're singing that long Jerusalem. Salem, ya da da dee. And then we've got to go, yeah, that's the note we finish on. And then we are still the harmony note in the chord, the next chord, but we have to shift from a major to a minor. So it's just a semitone, yeah, tunc acceptabis. And I think you will all know how to do this. Yada. If you hear a happy chord, a happy G chord, yada da, sad G chord, you're the note in the middle that makes it either happy or sad. And if you need to, draw a little sad face for bar 91. But in terms of intonation, I think you should just sing it. Do not creep in and try to hear it and then latch on, because that's when people sing a note and then it shifts, because then, I'm a bit out there. Let's trust you. Let's absolutely trust you to get it absolutely right and get in there, and then we just stick with that chord. One thing I noticed earlier, listening to some of Hannah's notes, I mean, she's a sensational musician, but I did notice that when she's got a lot of text to get through and she's reciting on one note, sometimes the pitch wanders around. I mean, I'm being super critical, but this is just the kind of really tedious thing I would say in a Tenebrae rehearsal, and all the singers will roll their eyes and go, oh, he's off again. Tunc acceptabis sacrificium. There you are, I just dipped in the middle of sacrificium there. Have the note very clearly in your head and let the text sort of flow through that note. Okay, does that make sense? Rather than whatever. Do we record the whole piece twice but with different endings? No. You just record that last page. Who's that there? That's Natalie. So otherwise you'll end up with loads of work. You can record it twice if you like. Make the self-isolation choir sound even bigger than it is. I think we've got something like nearly 1,000 people involved in this, so it's going to be the biggest recording of the Allegri ever. So yeah, once you've recorded the second line down at bar 97, you then jump down to the third line up from the bottom. So your notes will start up there on a G and then on a C for the one at the bottom. Okay, so look, we are nearly out of time. So just before we sing through the whole thing again, I told this story earlier, which there were loads of messages saying, "Oh no, that's awful" and whatever. But I want to retell it, but with the sort of slightly happier ending, which is my son, when he was nearly 10. Was one of 3 boys selected to sing the top C's in his choir, and he'd practiced and he was ever so excited, and we all turned up to the service, and he can sing super high, so the notes weren't a problem, And as he walked in to the service, we thought, he doesn't look very happy. And he'd practiced it, had extra rehearsals with the quartet and these other boys, and done it. And he was the youngest boy to do it in this choir for quite a while, but he was very proud. And just as they were starting to walk into the service, the conductor tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Sorry, Josh, not this year, not this year." And he was, and he cried all the way through the service. He was sobbing. It was heartbreaking to see as a parent. And I was sort of, all ready to go and punch the conductor on the nose and say, "How could you do that? That was really mean." And then the next morning, the conductor called us and said, "Look, he just made a couple of slips in the rehearsal and ran out of breath a couple of times. And the last thing we want to do is to get him to do the solo and fall off it or embarrass himself." So he thought it was just the best thing, and he sort of left it till the last moment because he thought, "No, he'll be all right. He'll be all right." No, I just can't risk it. I can't risk, damaging his confidence like that. And so it all ended up very, fine. Within sort of 2 days, he was up and had forgotten all about it and been made a fuss of. But yeah, it was kind of a heartbreaking story. And I guess that must happen with this solo quite a lot, when people sort of build themselves up for it, and then you only need one slight thing to go wrong with it, don't you? And if that top C is not there on that day, then you can't do it. There's no way you can fake it. It's kind of merciless. My wife sang it many times. In fact, she's the soprano on the Tenebrae recording, the original one, and she said it's kind of a thankless thing because you do it and everybody goes, "Oh, lovely, yeah, that's why we come and hear this piece," and if you have the slightest blip, people go, "Ooh, not as good as so and so, whatever." So it's kind of a bit of a cruel one to end up with. But anyway, so that's a little story about my little boy, and he's not too damaged by all of that. He's fine. So we're going to sing through it, the whole thing, once more. So there's a G. There is your note, the B flat. And when we get to that last page, bar 97, let's this time sing, even though it's not what Hannah does on the track here, let's sing the G. I'll sing it in so that you hear it, but we'll sing the second line down from the score, okay? So here we go. There's a B flat. Oh, that's horrid, sorry. There's a B flat. I'm afraid I can't even fake a top C now. Right, here we go. Here's the whole thing. And I think it jumps in pretty quickly, doesn't it? Go through here. Open gently.
Et secundum multitudinem miserationum tuarum, dele iniquitatem mea, amplius lame, ab iniquitate
Listen for the alto note. There it is.
Et in peccatis concepit me mater mea. Ecce in veritatem asperges meis opo et undabor, lavabis net super nivem de albabor. Audit ui meo nobis gaudium
Less here.
Sacrificium Deo Spiritus contribulatus, co contritum et humiliatum Deus non despicies. Benigne facto Domine, in bona voluntate
Semitone shift here. Brilliant. Thank you everybody for your patience. I hope that was of some use with all those things. there's that last line. Yes, it's not clear, is it? But hopefully you can do. Tunc imponent super altare tuum titulos. Little bit of homework, and I'm sure everybody can manage that on their own. Nigel, any good tips on how to form the meh sound, especially where it's a long note, so it doesn't sound pinched and nasal? Meh. You think a bright vowel there, but or I wonder if you're thinking of the me, meh. With meh, you think a bright vowel, but actually you let everything just relax. Meh, meh. You can start with a high pitch sound, whatever. Thank you so much. I think this is such a brilliant thing, the self-isolation choir, and I can't tell you how excited I am to be doing this with you and to sort of experience it all. It's kind of making me feel really alive again with music, sort of just being involved and breathing, just doing things together is such a joy, and I've really missed it. So thank you for being here, and any burning questions, then do send them to Self-Isolation Choir or whatever. But hopefully I've kind of given you enough to be going on with, and I haven't sort of either overloaded you or bored you rigid. But I think we're in good shape for a good recording. Yep. Just listen to it over and over again. Listen to the real recording, and then that's kind of what we're after, isn't it? The on the Tenebrae CD, I think it's actually called Miserere, and then you get all the sort of little details from these guys on their tracks. But anyway, wonderful that you are all here. Do take care, everybody, and look forward to seeing you all on Saturday. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye bye.